It's the clarity. That is what is so overwhelming. What is our biggest competitor? It's business as usual. Come on, HVAC people, get on board. It is such a no-brainer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Climate Hero Club podcast. At Climate Hero Club, we're on a mission to champion the bold innovators behind climate tech, spotlighting the stories, challenges, and breakthroughs shaping a more sustainable future. I'm your host, Ollie, and today I'd really love to welcome to the show a very special speaker. She is actually the first female speaker on our podcast, which makes it extra exciting. She has a very strong background in the climate tech space and is actually a pioneer in this field. Her name is Neena Gill. She is the founder and managing director of ClimaCheck Resources. And she's been really pioneering and pushing in the field of energy efficiency in HVAC systems. And as you'll see in her really cool WhatsApp picture, she's a hands-on type of person. And really actually does the hard work that needs to get done for this energy transition and this positive future climate impact. So welcome to the show, Neena. It's great to have you.
Hi, Ollie. Thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. So what sparked your interest first in energy efficiency and specifically in HVAC systems?
Well, long story or short story?
Long story is okay.
Okay, so I grew up in a town by the sea, which has 2 refineries and now 3 power stations. So, that has an impact on anyone because it's all about energy and all of that. Cut my teeth, I would say, in mechanical engineering because I worked in logistics. I was running a family-owned transport company. So, that's a lot of trucks, a lot of mechanical stuff, a lot of spare parts and maintenance. And it sort of really sparked my interest in mechanical efficiency. And it was because it was very frustrating. And then as time went on, I actually wound up that business and I was very sure that I wanted to get into energy efficiency. It wasn't I wasn't so like, oh, it's going to be HVAC, but I think just doing my research, I realized how much energy is used in HVAC in the tropics. And I thought that was so interesting. And that's where my whole journey started. So I really, really had to learn from scratch. And I did. I'm actually really self-taught, but with a lot of help from experts in the field.
So could you tell us a little bit of background, a story behind founding ClimaCheck Resources and what it is that you do?
So in around 2009, that's when my actual HVAC journey began. And at the time, it was someone from my family who were involved in, it was an American product that was, it was to remove oil fouling because that's a problem. It's a well-known problem in HVAC. You have miscible oil transfer with refrigerant, you get fouled tubes, and then that causes loss of efficiency. That's where I started, and it was like sales. So you're selling a product, but then I began to realize very quickly you can't do that without establishing a baseline. So I was doing a lot of measurements. I was going into plants. And by the way, a lot of this was pilots. So I was literally working for free but I was so keen to get into plants and do hands-on stuff. So that's how it started. And I was spending loads and loads of time doing baselines in the kind of, the way it's still being done, where you're measuring secondary media and looking at flow rates, and all the calculations are done manually. I kept thinking, actually, the business is in the measurement. Like, that is the start of the whole thing. Then a friend of mine in New Zealand told me about ClimaCheck. This was in 2015, so this is 6 years on. By this time, I've had lots of experience in both chiller plants and refrigeration plants. And as soon as I heard about ClimaCheck, I went on their website. I gave them a call. It's just blown. I was so excited. And within, I think, 10 days of that call, I bought my first portable unit. And that was really the beginning of CoolCheck resources.
Awesome. And since you mentioned it, I was going to get to it later, but since you mentioned it already, ClimaCheck seems to be a very important partner of yours, and their technology is something you're excited about. Could you share a bit more about what ClimaCheck's technology does for monitoring and measurement, and then for improving the conditions? So, as a bit of background to the listeners, the objective here in HVAC energy efficiency is to really improve the performance of this HVAC system, right? So how does the ClimaCheck solution do that?
All right. So first thing, it's actually the only thing we do. CoolCheck Resources is a service partner for ClimaCheck in Southeast Asia. And that's what we do. And that's what we've been doing since 2015. So ClimaCheck, basically, it is a measuring and verification monitoring tool. So the big difference with ClimaCheck is that it measures the refrigerant system of any vapor compression system. This has not been done before. And ClimaCheck was actually patented in 1986. That's almost 40 years ago, which is stunning. So just a very smart person with real foresight. So it's basically sensors and software algorithms. So as I said, we're measuring around the refrigerant circuit. So the traditional way is you're measuring the secondary media, meaning the air side or the water side, or sometimes it's both. But with ClimaCheck, we actually measure for example, we measure the suction and discharge temperature across the compressor, and we measure the temperature of the refrigerant before the expansion device. We measure pressures, we measure power live. Of course, we measure the secondary media. We don't actually need it for the analysis, but it's very useful and it completes the whole picture. So this method is known as the internal method, and it's recognized, for example, by the International Energy Agency. It's Annex 52, which is the guidelines and protocols for measurement and verification of HVAC and refrigeration systems. The technology has been proven, it works, and the uses are you can have a portable system. So, for example, we have 2 portable systems. So you can use portable systems, for example, to do energy audits and measure baselines. It's a very good diagnostic tool. So if someone is trying to figure out what's going on with their chiller, and I hear this a lot, we've been there for 10 days, still don't know what the problem is. With ClimaCheck, you could literally hook up, and within an hour, we can tell you what the issue is. So it comes in a portable system. There's also continuous monitoring. So continuous monitoring is extremely valuable because in real time you are monitoring a system as it's running, getting granular information. You're always looking for deviations. And since I started with ClimaCheck in 2015, obviously it's just evolved, and many things, the software just gets better and better, and so there's lots of visuals, there's lots of ways in which the data is displayed and can be understood. And with continuous monitoring, it's literally now got to the point where it's explainable AI. So it's not just AI. So it's, of course, the data will give you metrics, but it will explain what is happening, what is the issue. It's very, very powerful. So from going from a situation where a lot of things have been invisible because they are really, really hard to see without this technology. Now there's so much transparency. So it's very empowering for, for everybody, from the technicians in the field to, let's say, the CFO who signs the checks for the energy bills and the service and maintenance and repair costs.
So what do you learn when you install these sensors? And what can you do with the data? Because for a beginner in energy efficiency like myself, I can think of, if I switch off the lights or the aircon, then I'll save energy. Or maybe if I buy a more efficient aircon with a lower energy rating, then, I can save energy. How is that different in this case?
This is one of the big issues, actually, I would say. A lot of people who run chiller plants, if the building is cool, you assume the chiller is working properly. And that can go on for years. And then you do your regular preventative maintenance and so on. Then you have a breakdown here, you do this. With ClimaCheck, we go in. And by the way, we've even measured sort of new systems still under warranty. And once you measure a system, you will find inefficiencies. And it usually, let's say, it could be from the very beginning of the life of that chiller. It could be from the commissioning of that chiller. It's just because that's the way, that's been the practice in the industry. They didn't have this insight before. So this is why ClimaCheck changes things so radically and so well. As I say, it makes the whole thing far more transparent. And the way in which the reporting is done, it breaks down the performance of each of the four main components of a vapor compression system. So it's the performance of the compressor, it's the performance of the evaporator, performance of the condenser, performance of the expansion device. And once you have an issue, you measure, you start to look at the data, you can identify where the problem is. So it's very little guesswork. There's no guesswork now. This is the problem. This is where it is. Obviously, sometimes it could be more than one problem, which also happens, and we see that regularly too. But it's the clarity. That is what is so overwhelming. It's the clarity.
And definitely, thank you. Could you share with us maybe a success story or a case where your diagnostics led to measurable improvements for a client?
So again, a lot of what CoolCheck Resources has been doing since we started is we get involved with a lot of energy audits. That's not our primary mission, but that seemed to be the one where there was the most uptake. People, as time has gone on and sustainability has come more and more to the forefront, a lot more people are out there doing energy audits. And so, the chiller plants and the refrigeration plant and so on, then they need to be measured. So with those audits, what we do is we provide a report to the contracting, whoever employed us to do it, and they need to follow up. We did recently do a project on a mall where they had their chiller plant was VRVs, and there were a lot of issues in that mall. And our reporting, we flagged, for example, refrigerant, low-hanging fruit, by the way, refrigerant charge is poor. It's either systems either overcharged or undercharged. You have with VRVs, you have master slave combination. So the load is not properly balanced, let's say, between the two. Long and short of it, our report flagged these issues, and that could have resulted in about a 25% improvement in energy efficiency. But there was a long discussion about whether or not they should just change the whole chiller plant and go replace it with the chiller instead of a whole, a bank of VRVs. So that's what they did in the end. And that, I believe, there's still a work in progress, and that will be about a 40% improvement in energy efficiency for them. So what I will say is every time we measure a plant, we always find inefficiency. And when we extrapolate our results, when we look at, for example, we look at similar plants. So let's say it's in processing or it's in comfort cooling, or when we look at our reporting and then we extrapolate that to if they save this much, we find it's an average in Malaysia. So this is Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, even a project that we did in Hong Kong. And it's an average of about 27-28%.
And so if you extrapolate that across Southeast Asia, there's a huge energy demand in Southeast Asia, growing industries, but also, of course, it's warm climates, needing a lot of cooling, ventilation. What kind of role can optimization of these HVAC systems play here in the region?
Well, absolutely massive, Ollie, because we are simply not going to achieve our net zero goals without optimization. It's really as simple as that. There's a lot of push for changing, like people think a new chiller, new equipment, that's the best way to get energy efficiency. Yes, in some cases it is, but it shouldn't also be guesswork. It should be the old system or the existing system should be measured, and then someone can sit down and work out sensibly the cost of replacement versus the cost of optimization. Optimization can be scaled up far, far quicker than replacing expensive machinery. And it's really the best way and the quickest way to get closer to our goals, which thankfully now are, becoming more and more enshrined in legislation, which I think it is a question that you're going to have coming later. I hope you don't mind me jumping the gun.
Go for it.
Since 2015, first bought ClimaCheck, and then I started to engage with a lot of people. And, we have some very good chiller consultants, for example, in Malaysia, and I work with a few of them. They're not many. This is the other problem. There is not like the critical mass of expertise that we need across Southeast Asia, I would say, So you have the people, they understand it, they know that that this is absolutely the way forward. But then they also have to bring their clients on board. And then it came to the point where I did realize it's not going to happen without legislation. You need some kind of a stick. It's just the nature of business as usual. Like, this is how we do it. It's okay. It's the chiller works. I'm like, well, yeah, the chiller works, but I can tell you, if I went in there, I would find, opportunity to optimize and save you money. So, yes. So finally, I think for Malaysia anyway, our energy efficiency law came into effect this year, the beginning of 2025. And the engagement that we've been having, yes, it's definitely stepping up now. There's nothing like a little bit of, not a little bit, quite significant, pressure that you have to do this. And there, obviously, I mean, we're not, there are a lot of people offering all kinds of solutions for energy efficiency in HVAC. The thing about ClimaCheck is we actually measure at the heart. We are measuring the compressor. And I feel you can do a lot of things downstream. There are other things you can do, but you really need to know what is happening at the chiller itself before you start doing, taking other steps to optimize. The first thing you should do is optimize the chiller plant, the compressor, the evaporator, condenser, the settings, the controls. And a lot of these are low-hanging fruit. They're not complicated things.
If I understand correctly, the type of clients that you work with are, large facilities. So buildings, shopping malls, not consumers with just the system on their home, right? So I understand it's building owners, facility managers that you work with. And what's something that holds them back from adopting these types of solutions for diagnostics and validation? And what are some misconceptions maybe that they have when you engage with them?
So I feel that, I ask myself this, okay, what is our biggest competitor? It's business as usual. It's like, we've been doing this for a long time, and then someone comes along and says, well, you can do it like this, and you should do it like this, because it's more accurate, it's going to empower you. You're going to have far more control over this plant, over this equipment than you've ever had. And, I can't say in particular, like it's one thing that might hold them back. I certainly, like we've been talking to some companies for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they do come around and they do come back. I think it's just that the HVAC industry itself is a very conservative industry. So if they are going to be talking to, let's say, their service company guys, they might just say, look, the chiller plant, it's been running it's okay. There's not such a big problem. But they actually don't even know, what is actually going on with the plant. They can only know if they use ClimaCheck and they measured the plant. So, and then the other side of it, as I said, is people sometimes won't do things unless they are told that they have to. And that's where we are, now with, as I said, there are other people out there who have solutions for optimizing chiller plants and so on, but they are very, very different from what we are doing. We are just very focused on the heart of the system. And without that, I won't say it's pointless. I would say that you are missing the biggest opportunity.
So when it comes to opportunity, I see there's definitely a chance for companies to save money through your solution. In terms of the consulting work that you do and the technology you implement, there's probably a cost upfront for them. How do you go around that challenge of they have to basically put in money to optimize and then we'll only see the returns later? That's probably the first challenge I would imagine that you have. And the second challenge, I'm curious how you tackle the challenge of that it's a very much a per property type of business. So it's very hands-on, takes a lot of time. So how do you build that into your operations, your business model, that, you can do multiple of these and sustain the business that way?
So we do a lot of spot measurements. And by the way, it actually doesn't take a lot of time. It takes about an hour to set up a measurement on, let's say, one chiller. We can also measure, if it's the same type of chiller, we could measure 2 or 3 of them simultaneously. That's when I would say it would get, maybe that would get a little bit expensive, because we always have to do configurations and, there's a lot of behind the scenes work. I actually don't think the cost is a barrier. I don't, especially, for example, when it comes to energy audits and creating baselines. We are much faster. We don't use flow meters. Time is money. Everything is calculated for you. You don't have to do any manual calculations. So we are far more efficient. We give you much more value for the money that you're going to spend, let's say, to do your energy audit and create your baseline. So to me, it's just, you get asked for a quote, and they've done it before, and they're using flow meters, and they're measuring secondary, temperature differentials on the air side. So the current way that things are being done, and maybe that could be a little bit cheaper. I don't think, as I say, price-wise, I think we're right there. The other thing, though, that we are really, really promoting is continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring of chillers. That is the future. Now, even if you had a brand new chiller, I would still argue you should use ClimaCheck. For example, you should use it from the commissioning, and then you should continue through the life of that chiller to be measuring it, where you can keep the chiller optimized. You can see any deviation in performance. What you do then is you move to predictive maintenance. Without continuous monitoring, at the moment, it's preventative maintenance. There's nothing preventative about preventative maintenance. Something fails, and then you react. It's reactive. With predictive maintenance, it's proactive. You see a deviation, you understand it. Sometimes a deviation can be operating conditions. It's nothing to do with the equipment. So you want to be really clear. You want to be really informed. So once you move into predictive maintenance, which you can do now with ClimaCheck, with continuous monitoring, there is so much money to be saved in maintenance. Is this going to disrupt maintenance in HVAC? It is. So we need to get the maintenance companies on board. It's not just the equipment owner so we always, when we talk to potential clients, we always like to bring the service company on board. In fact, I'll be real honest with you. I see our mission as more of, education. We want to bring people on board, training. We want to create a lot of ClimaCheck teams. There's only so much one company can do. We believe that it's inevitable, that it's the future of how cooling plants should be run and maintained. So the more people we can bring on board and the more teams we can create, that's the only way we're going to actually achieve something that's going to have an impact.
On that, what is the impact in the long term that you hope CoolCheck will create?
I think that it will have, a very, very significant, it'll be a way in which we actually can achieve some of the sustainability goals that we need to see and we need to achieve. I would like it to become, it's such a no-brainer. Everyone is using it. That's how I see it. I know I've been doing this a long time.
And what keeps you motivated to keep going after all these years?
You're really engaging and you're getting and seeing field reports from experts and other ClimaCheck users all over the world. And I've seen the way this technology has developed in over the 10 years and how it's it keeps developing. And as I say, like this explainable AI, it's so empowering. It's going to really upskill people. This technician can go into a plant, plug in, and within minutes they can get a report. They can say, look, this is what needs to be done, or actually that's not the issue, that's the issue. I just can't see that it won't happen. Yeah, I do believe that it's just going to be taken up more and more and more.
The passion really radiates. So I'm really excited to continue to see you as you progress through this journey. And I hope that, different or a lot more people can be trained to use the ClimaCheck systems, that you can work with many of these maintenance companies in Southeast Asia and beyond. And where can people find you or connect with you to learn more about CoolCheck?
Okay, so I would like to say we are very, very collaborative in how we work. We're really open, and yes, that was one of the other things about, the amount of experience that we've had over the last 10 years. I did a lot of work just simply because I wanted to get to know a particular kind of chiller. I'm like, okay, never mind. Just give me a chance to go in so I could learn, so we can train. So we're very, very confident about that, our ability to engage with and create new teams and to collaborate. We've done all of this by personal engagement. For example, we have not had a website for the last 10 years. When you told me about this podcast, well, I thought, better do something. So I'm working on that. Hopefully very soon you will see www.coolcheckresources.com. But you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Sometimes I write original pieces. And you can also email me, Neena.Gill@coolcheckresources.com.
Awesome. Well, I'm really grateful to have had you here on the podcast. I don't know if you would like to share any parting words.
Come on, people. Come on, HVAC people. Get on board. It's such a no-brainer. It is such a no-brainer. Yeah.
Well, with that, again, thank you. I look forward to seeing you again soon and continuing the conversation on how we can positively impact the environment together.
Thank you so much, Ollie.